Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to a series of videos in which I am reading you a book. We are reading the Gospel according to St. Mark in the Norton Critical King James Bible, the English Bible here. The Norton Critical is their great series of reprints of classics. They give you the text, and then they give you supporting material in the back, supplementary essays and whatnot. This Norton Critical of the Bible is long awaited. For a long time, I thought it would be one volume, but it's 2 volumes. And they also give you full color maps in the back and tons of critical stuff. So they're expensive. These volumes are expensive, each of them, but they're well worth it. They are a Bible to have. And we are up to chapter 12 in the Gospel according to St. Mark. Jesus, our itinerant preacher and wonder worker, has gone to Jerusalem. He will not leave it as a living man. He is going to his doom, as he has told his disciples many times now. In Jerusalem, he is going to the heart, he's going to the stronghold of the people who have Mark has already told us they want to destroy him. The chief priests, the scribes, the elders of the temple, the Herodian faction, the Pharisees and Sadducees, they want to destroy him. They want to kill him. And here he is walking into their center of power. They have shown a reluctance to act against him out in the countryside, where he is typically surrounded by crowds and crowds of thousands of people who, if you were to bring in a small contingent of temple guards to arrest him, they might tear you limb from limbs. They've been reluctant to do that. So instead, they have tried to trap Jesus, to trap him rhetorically, get him to say some heresy, get him to say something against the chief priest, get him to say something against doctrine, or even better yet, get him to say something against Rome. Get him into trouble that way. It's a godsend to them, no pun intended, that he would march straight to Jerusalem, right into their hands, and that is what he has done. He is now in Jerusalem. So we're going to go on with chapter 12 now. And he began to speak unto them by parables. And here we get a parable. A certain man planted a vineyard and set a hedge about it, and digged a place for the wine vat, and built a tower, and let it out to husbandmen, and went into a far country. And at the season he sent to the husbandman a servant, that he might receive from the husbandman the fruit of the vineyard. And they caught him and beat him and sent him away empty. The servant, that is. They don't give the servant their yield. They are working this land for its owner. They don't do that. Instead, they beat the servant and send him away. And again, he, that is the vineyard's owner, sent unto them another servant. And at him they cast stones and wounded him in the head and sent him away shamefully handled. And again he sent another, and him they killed, and many others, beating some and killing some. Having yet therefore one son, his well-beloved, he sent him also last unto them, saying, They will reverence my son. But those husbandmen said amongst themselves, This is the heir, come, let us kill him, and the inheritance shall be ours. And they took him and killed him and cast him out of the vineyard. What shall therefore the Lord of the vineyard do? He will come and destroy the husbandman, and he will give the vineyard unto others. And have ye not read this scripture? The stone which the builders rejected is become the head of the corner. This was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. And they sought to lay a hold upon him, but feared the people. For they knew he had spoken the parable against them, and they left him and went their way. What on earth? What on earth? First, I have mentioned many times before in this read-along that according to this story, it makes no sense for this character to be talking in cryptic parables anyway. If he wants to change people's hearts, if he wants to introduce a new word, a new way in the world, talking by parables that he has already admitted to his disciples he's keeping intentionally vague seems the worst way to do it. Especially since he appears to be able to create instant in understanding and loyalty without words, just in the breast of the people who are listening to him. It doesn't work with the people who are questioning him, but this parable? The parable is, I believe, we won't get into much in the way of exegesis here or interpretation of any kind, but I believe that the parable is supposed to be that the husbandman in a distant country is God. And the people that he is sending to take accounting from the people that run his vineyard are the various section of prophets that have come to the people of Judea who they have rejected and reviled and spat upon and sometimes killed. That sequence of people, of figures that he's sending are the sequence of prophets. And then finally the owner of the vineyard, the Lord of the vineyard, decides to send his only son and heir, obviously Jesus, in this parable. And they kill him too, saying, well, if we kill him, everything will come to us. It will all be ours. And the parable ends with saying, well, what will the owner of that vineyard do? Of course, he will send in the troops. Basically, he will destroy the husbandmen. If the husbandmen are willing, if they are so depraved that they will not only kill every servant that comes, but also kill the son, well, then they must be destroyed themselves. I'm pretty sure that is just a simple, plain text interpretation of what Jesus, the character in this gospel, is trying to get at, with himself being the son and heir. So this is again a foreshadowing that the forces that be, the powers that be in Jerusalem, are going to kill him at their great peril, at their great risk. But the parable makes no sense. The parable itself makes no sense. I guess maybe it's not supposed to. Certainly some of you are sticking up for the Gospel of St. Mark in the comments and in my emails, wonderfully so. If we can have lots of fun discussions about this, that's what I want. This is not this is not Sunday school. This is not a religious discussion of these texts. But if you were sitting listening to this guy, why tell a parable if the parable itself makes no sense? The owner of the vineyard would not send even a second servant once the first one had been sent back abused. He would already know that he had to deal with the husbandman directly in some other way. He certainly wouldn't send a succession of servants. He certainly wouldn't send anyone after the first person that he sends is killed. The first time he sends a servant and that servant is not just sent back bruised and beaten, but killed, he wouldn't send anyone else, and nor would any servant go. And even if he managed to find servants masochistic enough to go when they knew what happened to their predecessors, under no circumstances whatsoever would the owner of that vineyard send his son. It's a weird, depraved, inhuman, unlikely parable. So why, since it doesn't do any good as a parable, why Jesus doesn't just say, anyway, let's not, we won't have any other long digressions. We'll just move straight on. So we have a bit more to go in this chapter. As the chief priests and the Pharisees and the scribes continue to try to test Jesus, they want to trip him up. And they send unto him certain of the Pharisees and of the Herodians to catch him in his words. And when they were come, they say unto him, Master, we know that thou art true, and carest for no man, for thou regardest the person of men, but teachest the way of God in truth. Is it lawful to give tribute to Caesar, or not? See, another way, like I mentioned, try and trick him up with the Romans. They're watching. They're right there on the walls. They're right there in the marketplace. Shall we give, or shall we not give? But he, knowing their hypocrisy, said unto them, Why tempt ye me? Bring me a penny, that I may see it. And they brought it, and he saith unto them, Whose is this image and superscription? And they say unto him, Caesar's. And Jesus answering said unto them, Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God. And they marveled at him. But they're not done. They're not done testing him at all. Then come to him the Sadducees, which say there is no resurrection. The Sadducees are a faction of the temple high priests and scribes and whatnot who don't believe in resurrection. And they ask him, saying, Master, Moses wrote unto us, saying, If a man's brother die, and leave him his wife behind, and leave no children, that his brother should take his wife, and raise up seed unto his brother. Now there were 7 brethren. And the first took a wife, and dying left no seed. And the second took her, and died, neither left he any seed. And the third likewise. And the 7 had her, and left no seed. Last of all, the women also died. In the resurrection, therefore, when they shall rise, whose wife shall she be of them? For the 7 had her to wife. The Sadducees are meaning to bring up an absolutely absurd paradox of resurrection. The same kind of absurd paradoxes that anybody can bring up. If you have your appendix out, are you going to have your appendix back when you're resurrected? Or the great Julia Sweeney, who did a fantastic show, basically a one-woman show about religion and her grappling with and losing religion, and she mentions variation on this same thing. What if I had something removed from my body and I don't want it back? Do I have to have it back? Same thing, comedians have brought up nose jobs or anything like that. This is meant to be absurd. Of course, the ingrained sexism of the Judaism of the time and also the current time, nobody bothers to wonder what the resurrected woman wants. She's resurrected in glory at the end of the world, having survived the travails of this world. She's still stuck with some husband, some schmuck, one of the 7 schmucks that she had to deal with. Nobody ever asked her, even in the afterlife. Do you not therefore err? Jesus answered them, saying, do you not therefore err? Because you know not the Scriptures, neither the power of God. For when they shall rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels which are in heaven. And as touching the dead, that they rise, have ye not read the book of Moses, how in the bush God spake unto him, saying, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? He is not the God of the dead, but the God of the living. Ye therefore do greatly err. Okay, but Abraham and Isaac and Jacob are all dead when God says that from the burning bush that he's concerned not. But here we get a wonderful passage. The scribes and Pharisees are trying to trick Jesus. It's wonderful that Mark remembers that not all of them are thoroughly evil. I love it. We'll see what you like of it. And one of the scribes came, and having heard them reasoning together and perceiving that he had answered them well, asked him, which is the first commandment of all? And Jesus answered him, the first of all commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, with all thy strength. This is the first commandment. And the second is like, namely this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There is none other commandment greater than these. And the scribes said unto him, Well, master, thou hast said the truth, for there is one God, and there is none other but he. And to love him with all the heart, and with all the understanding, and with all the soul, and with all the strength, and to love his neighbor as himself, is more than all the whole burnt offerings and sacrifices. And when Jesus saw him answer discreetly, he said unto him, Thou art not far from the kingdom of God. And no man after them durst ask him any questions. That's an interesting exchange. That is a very interesting exchange. I won't overstress here. I don't want to continue on a hilarious debate that is raging with one particular viewer. I won't overstress here that once again Jesus is clearly saying, and so is the scribe he's talking to, that there is only one God. There aren't others. There's only one. So Jesus has said before in this gospel, I'm not God. God is someone else. God is the person who told you to listen to me, but he's not me. But I've already offered all the oysters in the world to one of you to agree with that, and you have not. So we're free to interpret this all you like. But that is a wonderful exchange. It's a very rare note in this part of Mark. Mark is now concerned with adversarial relationships. Jesus is not making things any better. He has not gone to Jerusalem to play nice with the chief priests and scribes of the temple. He's going to confront them in their own lair, as he continues to do. We'll just move on. And Jesus answered and said, while he taught in the temple, How say the scribes that Christ is the son of David? For David himself said, By the Holy Ghost, the Lord said to my Lord, Sit thou on my right hand till I make thine enemies thy footstool. David, therefore, himself calleth him Lord. And whence is he then his son? And the common people heard him gladly. That is Jesus stressing all, not to upset anybody, that is Jesus stressing all the more that he is not God. But anyway, and he said unto them in his doctrine, Beware of the scribes, which love to go in long clothing and long salutations in the marketplaces, and the chief seats in the synagogues and the uppermost rooms at feasts, which devour widows' houses, and for the pretense make long prayers. These shall receive greater damnation. He is preaching in the temple of Jerusalem that the scribes and Pharisees are damned. And Jesus sat over against the treasury, and beheld how the people cast money into the treasury, and many that were rich cast in much. And there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in 2 mites, which make a farthing. And he called unto him his disciples, and saith unto them, Verily I say unto you, that this poor widow hath cast more in than all that which have cast into the treasury. For all they did was cast in of their abundance. But she, of her want, did cast in all that she had, even all her living. And that is the end of chapter 12. And I will not go on a rant here. I will not go on a rant here, but even now, it is just common for the great temple in Jerusalem to see people just lining up to give it money. That has not changed. Maybe with the great temple, but with any other temple, it has not changed. The biggest mega churches in the United States, they are tax-free. They are property tax-free. They haul in hundreds of millions of dollars a financial quarter. Often, as often as not, I would say probably more often, from the widow who is giving their all, even their living. Jesus says she doesn't just give the tiny bit that she has, she gives everything. She doesn't have a living. She doesn't have money for food once she has left the temple. She's never getting anything back from the temple for that. She's not even getting her bare upkeep from the temple. They're not giving her anything. She assumes that she is doing well to do that. That assumption is weird. The temple is meant to minister to your spiritual needs. And yet, in every religion, from the dawn of time to the present day, that has somehow been very comfortably blurred with, you should also give us money. Never mind that our own doctrines, that Jesus himself, in the previous chapter that we read, says if you earnestly want something, you will have it, even if it's moving a mountain. I presume that churches earnestly want to keep the lights on so that they can minister to their flock, but they still need the money to do that. It's not going to be their own money. It's going to be your money. It's going to be the widow's money. The big mega churches that live in the United States today, they are not taxed. They are unbelievably wealthy. The people that minister to them are unbelievably wealthy. In an earlier video just this week, we mentioned Greg Locke, also Kenneth Copeland, who's one of the richest people, one of the richest preachers in the world. Endless amounts of money flowing into these people, and they flaunt it. They'll talk endlessly about. Jesse Duplantis will talk about his multiple jets, his multiple planes. Kenneth Copeland has said, "You don't expect me to fly commercial, do you, with a bunch of demons?" They have multiple cars, multiple mansions, built usually on the widow's mite. But I said I wouldn't digress into that tonight. So we're certainly not going to use the Gospel according to St. Mark as a lens to criticize the abuses of current-day Christianity. We're certainly not going to do that. So we're going to move on. The main point that I want to make here, aside from the fact that Jesus in Mark is not all that good at this whole parable business. He's not as good as the Jesus as we will see in other Gospels. Aside from that, I want to point out the drama that Mark is heightening here. We've seen it. There's notes that are struck early on, but very lightly. Those notes have been struck stronger and stronger as things have gone on. This clash, this very human clash between Jesus and the powers that can destroy him. This Jesus in the Gospel according to St. Mark doesn't head that off at all. He easily could. He easily could unharden the hearts of the scribes and Pharisees. He doesn't do that. Instead, he antagonizes them. And the drama, if you want to call it that, of this gospel is heading in that direction. So Jesus is in Jerusalem, and he has already he has confronted the chief priests. They're still trying to trip him up more than ever, now that they've got him right at their elbow. And he's called them damned. He has preached in the temple that they are leading the people astray. That's dangerous. Very dangerous. And you might think, well, these chief priests and ministers of the temple are perfectly able to deal in doctrinal debates. They do that for a living. There's a reason why Mark has the two things side by side, the doctrinal debates and Jesus looking at the treasury. Look, he's leaning on the treasury wall. He's watching people donate money to the church, to the priests, that he is called damned. He is dealing with live, and also he overturned the money changers' temple. He's dealing with live ammunition here as this story builds towards its climax. So we will just keep going. I'll wrap this up for now, and we'll go on to the next chapter next time. So I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.